you guys have been asking some great questions, and a lot of the answers to that, we don't know yet. And really, that's what the 2-year time frame of conducting the analysis of the EIS will answer those aspects. So keep asking the questions. That one is just exactly like this one right here. There's several different ways that you can comment. You can do it by our website, and really that's the easiest way to do it. You might have some limited connectivity, I understand if you're out here, but if you can, it's the easiest thing to do. There's a form that you can jump into, fill it out, or actually you can do it on Word or a processing first and then cut and paste right into it too. The one thing you will see there, you'll see everybody else's comments too. So if you go to the website, you'll, if I were to make a comment 3 weeks ago, you would see that out there as well. So some good, we call it the reading rooms, the electronic reading room, a bunch of good stuff to read through there. We can use a fax machine, yes, they still exist. Right, certainly by email, and the address is up there as well too. But we can also do snail mail too. We just need to make sure that it's postmarked by July 20th this time. And we don't know the date of the next time around, but once we do publish the draft EIS and the draft record of this, we'll have for that time frame too. Okay. We keep answering questions. What would you guys like to do?
I'd just like to ask a question about some of the work that's been done in the past and some of the projects that's gone on have had consensus group input to those projects. And that seems to dominate the public comment process. What has been done so far in terms of consensus group comment and feedback on this project, and what issues have come up that need to be addressed or we might be able to support or address? Is there a consensus group assigned to this project?
So, with this being a mining, so I think you're talking about what we normally call collaborative groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have, the Forest Service has used the collaborative process for a number of different things, including travel planning, timber self-planning, that sort of thing. Dealing with the mining operation is a different thing, because we've got, under law, it's not really the Forest Service's proposal. We by law have to take the mining plan of operations for the mining and put it out as a proposed action. And so in this case, the NEPA process, all these comment periods are really where we're trying to go to get that input from folks. However, I do know Midas has spent a lot of time talking to folks, trying to listen to them and trying to incorporate some of that stuff into their plan. So that's probably where most of the collaborative work has gone in, was during Midas's development of it.
So they've made contact with the consensus or the collaborative group?
Well, there's not a collaborative group for this, and so it's been mostly just from their public outreach over the years that it took them to get to this plan.
So Mike's is going to do what they want to do?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Like I said, just to reiterate, is that by law the Forest Service has to take a reasonable plan of operations and move it through the process. As Brian started off with this, talking about us finding reasonable mitigations to ensure environmental protection, social issues, all that sort of stuff. So that's where we're at right now. This is the plan that Midas submitted to the Forest Service. We're doing our job, putting it out there, and then we're going to take public comment, and then do the analysis and move forward. So, very, very likely that there's going to be, by the time this gets to a decision, there's going to be some changes that were driven by people's comments and all that. So, no, it's not very just going to do it.
We do actually have a couple of Midas representatives back there too, so if you want to chat with them. They always make themselves available too. Well, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a big question. Actually, okay. What socioeconomic study are you guys using for your NEPA process? Do you know the name of it?
So there's a model that we can use for at least part of the analysis.
Is it the same one you guys used for 2008 Big Creek and Yellow Pine travel area plan? Because that one,
No, Scott, it'll be a different, it'll be just for this project. It's got
Okay.
a bunch of different factors in it.
because that one that you based on, that was a private contractor, but it said that there was only one job in Yellow Pine related to tourism. Are you still using that same economic model?
We haven't gotten to that yet, Scott.
Okay.
I think there was another question right over here. Did you have a question?
I just wondered if Midas itself, this is more for Midas, if they're going to, when it comes time, they haven't sold it yet, are they going to go ahead and mine it as a mine, not an exploratory company?
Yes, we will.
You will?
Senior management is in place to take this all the way through operations.
Okay.
We are a publicly traded company.
Pardon?
I said we are a publicly traded company. So it is not to say that somebody could not come in and buy us. But our intention is to take it through operations.
I guess I got one question. Why put all the money in building a new road when you got an existing road that you can upgrade and maintain and stuff? Why reroute the road?
There's multiple reasons for that. One is our new alternative keeps us away from waterways, you know, for transporting things like fuel and stuff into the mine site. Hopefully we've never had any issues, with a lot of contingencies in place. But staying away from waterways is key. And also, this road here, as you guys know, wintertime, avalanches, rocks, slides. The road we're proposing stays more on top of ridges instead of at the bottom of valleys. It means more plowing snow drifts because you're on top of the ridge, but it mitigates a lot of risk of things coming down on top of people.
And we cross waterways as opposed to traveling along waterways. And understandably, there are a number of folks in the community that don't want all of that traffic coming through this town.
That is one.
And so the burnt log option was actually recommended by the community of Yellow Pine for us to look at that.
Please stop saying that, Belinda. There was one person that made the suggestion, not the community of Yellow Pine made the suggestion. And please, it's semantics, but it makes it look like our community bought off on that plan. We did not. One person made that suggestion.
Okay?
Okay, not the community of Yellow Pine. Please stop
The
using that
recommendation
terminology.
came from the town of
One
Yellow Pine.
person.
Okay, what I'm saying
No,
is,
it
this
didn't
was,
come from
it
Yellow
was
Pine,
the
it came
community
from
meeting.
Johnson.
Okay.
It was the community meeting that we had. That's
So
the
it wasn't Yellow Pine.
Big distinction.
There you go, it wasn't Yellow Pine, okay.
But as far as the alternative, the Jeep Trail,
Yes, ma'am.
that seems like an overkill,
Yes.
as opposed to using the existing road and rerouting it. To me, that seems extensive.
I know
And
that
that would still open up the community and give the community access to
In a more traditional way.
the mining company. And
But they're gonna put that road in anyway because they're gonna take the power over it, right?
the
Oh,
horse.
right, power and access.
So they gotta build the road anyway
Well,
to do
it's
it.
built.
It's built, but
Oh,
they gotta
Just needs to
maintain
be
it.
improved.
Improved, yeah.
That answered your question. They looked at many alternatives. They felt, from a safety perspective, from not being along streams and crossing streams, from getting us high on a ridge instead of in the avalanche area, that was the best alternative. It is not to say that other alternatives weren't considered. It's just that's the one that they felt was the best alternative.
I think more comments suggesting that a route be made from the current Yellow Pine Cement Road around is gonna help us look at it even closer.
Yes.
And it helps the Forest Service.
Here's what Sam just said. See, this is where Sugar Creek takes off here. This is where you turn and cross the creek and come in the old one thing. You know, what I've written up so far comes in from here. You come off here, and there's just a loop road, and I had originally had it come in here, but you're gonna be doing your main mining facilities here. But I've walked all of this country here, and it's not that hard. Even if you brought it down to here and along here, and you crossed over the main road, and it gives Yellow Pine full van for disabled people that want to come and recreate here and go up, okay? And keep your burnt log road and do all your mining and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, if there was a loop that came in here, and you put a stop sign and you cross over, okay? You cross over your deal.
So at this point, so you all know, at this immediate moment, Midas cannot change what we have submitted. The Forest Service, based on the comments that you all submit, can recommend that we make changes. But the plan that we have submitted, I can't say to Dan, oh yeah, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna tell everybody this is what we need to do.
No.
At this moment,
She's so right
it
on
now
that.
comes from the Forest Service. So Midas put in place what we felt was the best alternatives all the way around. For community, for safety, for avalanche, all of them. We just felt that that was the best access route.
Yeah,
Now, the
it's
Forest Service is
she's
very
very
much-
right. I mean, we need to, you know, the plan that they submitted, that's, it's got to end on it, you know. If not, if we were changing it all the time, we'd really have to change the entire environmental impact study, you know, every couple of weeks or something like that, so. But the development of the alternatives, that's what you see as the end result of the analysis that will be done. And a draft of that will be put out, and again, your opportunity to comment based on that as well, too. You know, I like this alternative, I don't like that alternative, I like this is the best thing to do, those types of things would be available at that time.
Yeah, just don't fix this. But I'm still a little confused as it relates to the county right-of-way that goes through the area, because it's not Forest Service's decision. They don't have a thing to say about it, but you just kind of said it's up to them now to approve or modify or make any additions
Maybe I
back.
could jump in on that.
Well, where does the county now come in?
Yeah, so, you know, as I mentioned before, the cooperative agencies, that's where the county plays in with the analysis of the EIS. So they'll very much be involved in that, the development of all those alternatives, that's when the county will essentially be writing sections of it.
Along that line, on your little posted in the NEPA process, we say in that second green block on the left, that the Forest Service will have a preferred alternative. Or the agency, they'll disclose the agency preferred alternative. And I guess my question is, you're missing a sentence there that would help us understand how you're going to choose your agency preferred alternative. And where does the county's inputs as a partner relate to you choosing your preferred alternative?
Well, that's where the cooperating agency, part of it comes in. So we would be working with the county, Department of Lands for the portions that are on private lands, and everyone else to come up with a preferred alternative that's going to take into consideration public comment, the agency's needs, permitting requirements, the least environmentally damaging potential alternative. That's something that actually the Corps of Engineers has to determine as part of their 404 permitting. So it's going to be tough, you know, to kind of meld everybody's needs and come up, you know, with something that's as balanced as we can get it. And just because it's the preferred alternative at the EIS stage doesn't mean that's exactly what will be decided on in the final record of decision. So things that we can look at between the DEIS and the final EIS is tweaks or kind of combining alternatives to come up with a decision that is, you know, balances as well as we can for what jurisdiction we have on National Forest System lands, as well as all the other jurisdictions that play in, all the other interests that play in.
Well, I think that's the point I was trying to make, is that we'll comment only to you.
Well, that's
We aren't commenting to the county, and we aren't commenting to
you are.
anybody else.
Yeah,
I
You
don't-
are.
because they're a cooperator, we'll actually, where there's comments that are directly related to their jurisdiction or authority, we will actually request their assistance in responding to that comment.
Yeah,
So-
well, there are those there are comments right now that are strictly for engineers, on water aspects and things like that. And they do those, while they're given to us, through the cooperating agency aspect, they're the ones that really, focus on those and analyze those.
Who's taking the lead on the EIS, or is each individual,
The Forest Service, yeah, us, the Fayette National Forest, is the lead agency for the EIS. Keith Lanham, the Forest Supervisor, is the designated responsible official, so that's fine.
and you're taking input from all other agencies involved?
Absolutely, yeah. Multiple signatures through the end.
Maybe even multiple decisions.
Yeah.
So, now the power line road, because they're proposing to put a power in a different way, I guess, the way it used to be. Now, the power line road, is that the road that you guys were talking about? Is the one that goes road in Ontario?
Access, yes.
Tennessee Meadow. Now, would that road be made like very, very passable, I mean, for everyone? Or is that-
The proposal right now is that it would be basically a motorized trail, so basically a Jeep trail, going up there. I mean, as I can hear with the comments over there, if you're familiar with that road location, it's never gonna be a super passable
Well,
road.
how can they maintain the power lines then if you can't get there?
It's amazing what they can maintain a power line off of.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you look at, where the existing line comes over on Cabot and Trout Creek,
Yeah,
I could, but I would not drive my
no.
Forest Service vehicle or my personal vehicle over that road.
But she asked, could that Jeep trail be made into a passable?
Nothing's impossible, but it would be pushing the limits of feasibility.
Or safety.
If you look at that existing road location, it just zigzags up that very steep hillside.
Climb 4,000 feet.
Yeah, it's a heck of a climb in a short period of time.
So I have a question, in your draft EIS, are all of the alternatives that you didn't select from going to be visible?
Yes, yes. That will be in chapter 2. We'll have all of the alternatives that are going to be carried through the entire analysis, but there will also be, if there's alternatives that were considered but determined not to be feasible, there will be an explanation of why it was considered but dismissed from a full-blown analysis. So that will be in there.
And some you will have done a full-blown analysis on because they were close, maybe 2 or 3 different ones, and you're obviously going to choose one.
Correct.
So that you'll be saying, and this is why the show's number 1.
Absolutely, yeah, so it'll kind of just show how we, narrowed it down and focused it in, based on all of the considerations that have to be, pulled in.
Well, we've got 3 days to comment.
So,
A question. Did you have an alternative that left the road open through the mine site?
I have not read all of those alternatives, have you? I will ask that question, and I'll get back to you. I can get a very quick answer for you.
Okay.
Yes,
Finally,
sir.
no.
So,
That would be wonderful,
Yeah.
because that is a huge issue.
I know.
You can have
It's
the
a big-
line.
I know.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
no, I get it.
Seriously.
I get you.
I mean,
And
you
we
figure
want
if you
that.
put a gate there, I
Right.
guarantee you there'll be a gate at Profile, and that's it for us.
right.
Right, just like 3 Mile,
Most of these.
right, just like Shepherd Creek.
It's like Buckhorns.
You know, so that's where we're all headed. I don't know if you understand that,
I do.
all right?
I
That's
heard
huge.
you.
But do you care?
Absolutely.
I know you care, but do you guys truly care about what we're saying?
Absolutely.
You already have a plan, you already know where you're going, and you don't care what we're saying.
I don't believe that for a moment.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
I think that's gonna.
Well, show us,
I
show
will
us.
believe
Yeah,
that.
show us,
Yes.
because nothing's changing.
Because what I'm saying, I don't know the answer to that question. So I have to ask our senior staff that puts all of those alternatives together.
See
And,
staff.
and I will more than happily let you know if that alternative was looked at.
I was gonna comment, did you have some input on that?
Yeah, so, Kyle Fenn, so, we,
Hey, Kyle.
hi Glenda.
I'm hiding back here.
So, we looked at, and this isn't presented in the back of the pro, because it didn't get past a preliminary screening analysis.
It did not.
It did not. So we looked at about 5 or 6 different routes to try and get around the west side of the Yellow Pine Pit expansion. What you don't see on any of these maps are roadless corridors. And that was, we had some confining factors that we thought would allow.
Kyle,
Please let me finish.
The law goes all the way through roadless corridors.
Let him talk. We have prior existing rights for some of that stuff. So, from a mining activity and when the claims date. So, that aside, for public access, we had certain limitations on when we were doing our internal analysis to look at alternate routes around the Yellow Pine Pit, both on the east side and the west side. We looked at access through the mining operations, and we felt that wasn't a viable alternative, considering the sequencing of the mining. If we allow people to come through at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 5 o'clock in the night, so we can escort them through the mine property with traffic and everything else, we can basically shut down operations to allow public through the operation and not put anybody at risk with accidental traffic or anything else, because this is a different mining operation than what we've seen up here in any of the previous operations in the past. But because of the roadless corridors, different gradient restrictions for full-size vehicles, I could probably punch an ATV route through there pretty easy. But we've already looked at that on the Horse Heaven route for a trail open all classification. But from our standpoint, we couldn't get a successful alignment around the east side of the Yellow Pine Pit. It also didn't work on the west side because of the mining activity, the expansion of the Yellow Pine Pit back into the homestake where they took the oxide, where Hecla got the oxide from, and because of the backfill from west end back in through that area. We will be putting the road back in on that west side and then crossing up above the Yellow Pine Pit at closure, but again.
I'll be dead
You'll-
So
So, if anybody has, again, a better alternative, we're welcome. The Forest Service we're more than willing to look at it. We looked at this pretty hard, and if anybody has a better alignment or alternative, again, we're happy to look at it and consider it. We're not saying hell no. It just has to meet certain requirements from a safety standpoint. I'm sure the Forest Service has some restrictions on it as well.
Hi Kyle, I'm Scott Amos. I've emailed you a couple times. And I keep hearing this from the Forest Service that the property owner at Cinnabar will not let the public cross Cinnabar. But I have an email from the landowner at Cinnabar that he proposes an alternative to going through Cinnabar, granting a public right of way. Would you guys consider that alternative?
It'd have to be presented and fully fleshed out. So I have not seen any proposal presented as such.
So just so you folks know on alternatives, we have requested Midas to, in addition to that appendix to their plan that they included on the alternatives for access that they thought were viable, we've also requested their pre-screening analysis so we can utilize that in our consideration along with all the other agencies on, should we revisit some of these? So some of them may come in as alternatives considered but dismissed. Maybe they would be carried through. We certainly look at other possibilities, including if there's a possibility that we can, work with the property owner up at Cinnabar.
Midas has the they could buy Cinnabar, clean it up, and
put a
put
road
a road right through the middle of it. And mine it as well.
Eric, just like Matt had something to say earlier.
My question is related to the burnt log route going through the roadless area and kind of that south end of going around Cherry Creek, which is on that south ridge between the wilderness boundary and the roadless area. If there's some sort of offsets or credits, if we could punch to that to me, that ridge line looks pretty easy to punch a road to around and around through Cinnabar as well.
Yes.
Skirting the wilderness, but it'd still be through roadless. But I don't know if the offsets, or if there's any sort of credits or offsets.
Well, so what Kyle, I think, was kind of talking about, so it gets complicated with putting a road through a roadless area. The short answer is the Forest Service can't do that. It's a roadless area. The reason that Midas is able to propose putting the mining access through a roadless area is because the roadless rule accounts for mining activities and having those existing rights back there. So when you look at putting an additional public access route through a roadless area, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it adds a whole other layer of issues associated with it. If it's a road, when you start talking about a trail, it's a little bit different, and that's why this proposal has been limited to start with to a trail. But that's also something we'd like to hear. It may be a place that an alternative has to go to live. Yes, sir.
It seems to me that, Kyle said he's looking for alternatives, but the fact of the matter is, for 100 years, we've had access to the Thunder Mountain area, Roosevelt, access to Frank Church through that area. And they're proposing to simply cut that off. And I think that they should be looking harder at alternatives.
Well, but if they're restricted by a roadless rule, it is a roadless setting, and the mining laws pre-existed before the roadless, how can the Forest Service help resolve the issue of going through roadless? Because it's the only alternative, because I think there is an issue with going through the mining operation from a practicality and reasonableness standpoint, but not going around and through a proposed roadless area with a huge mining activity taking place, directly adjacent. So is the Forest Service doing anything, or should we just comment as a group and say, we want you to reconsider that roadless, because that's ridiculous to have roadless right next to the mining and stop an alternative that can reroute the road again. It just seems like a reasonable public access.
Part of the burnt log area and stuff is roadless area, so that's being changed. Okay, and Piper made a comment early on, during this process, the Forest Service plan, the forest plan can be modified for this project.
Okay, a couple different things there. So, the roadless areas, under the way that the project is currently proposed, with the Barn Log Road going through there, the roadless area boundaries would not be modified. There will be a road running right through the middle of an existing roadless area. However, in the nature of the proposal, it's a temporary road and would go away from the mining operations. To actually go through.
Put in a temporary road. There's the problem solved. Temporary. Oh, sorry.
Please make that comment. I mean, that helps. Like I said, it's more than I can really explain to you right now. There's complexities with the whole thing when you go away from the actual mining access route to just a purely public route, and that's where we've been having a lot of internal discussion about where the city space is. But having commented that that's something that's needed will, I'm not saying something happen, but it'll make us look at additionally.
And that temporary quote-unquote road, the alternative, is because of the mining activity. So it could be considered part of the whole project. And, if it's labeled temporary and it's part of the mining project, and in the end, the old road will be restored, then I think it's a perfectly logical solution.
Sounds very logical, yeah, so.
You don't have to
See
mess-
that.
I know that upgrade doesn't work in logic.
Come on now, we've all been being nice to this one.
That just makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I agree.
Yes, so
Yeah, Jake, back in the 80s and 90s, I worked up there,
Mhm.
and the public coexisted on that same road. We had haul trucks working on that road. It was just a matter of safety issue that people had put their head in less. It worked. It worked. But to totally abolish a road to block it off to mine, I don't think that's a legitimate reason for that road. I don't know what.
Without an alternative.
Without,
That's reasonable.
yeah.
Because I don't know what sequencing they're gonna do on their mining and stuff, but they could mine one section, and actually establish the road back over, and area that they've already mined, then take that out, but always make sure there's access through there for the public, can get along with mine traffic. And I've seen it work for a lot of years.
We did it during our outfitting days, when we had to go through there all the time. It wasn't a problem.
The war was on, thanks to animals and everything else. It all coexisted this. Why are we having this problem now?
Because they want to mine the road.
Because mine is what to do it.
Want to mine the road, yeah, to move the road.
Well, and obviously, some people had suggested they might not like to have a bunch of ore trucks going through yellow pine.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a
Definitely
nightmare.
agree with that.
Yeah. That's a
So, I mean, you're asking for ore